Good morning, everyone. So when the NRF called me and said, hey, we'd like you guys to sort of kick things off for us in a keynote-y first presentation of the day, Sunday morning, I was like, wow, I just, I'm gonna have to bring out my A-team for this. So I'm happy to be joined on stage with Dave Stubbs. He's Chief Technology Officer for Avolta. You guys know Avolta, if not by name, certainly by experience, since it's getting very difficult to go to an airport without buying something from a Hudson News or another branded retail location, or have a snack or even a full meal from HMS Host from the food and beverage side of the house. And they've been a customer of ours for quite a while now. Happy to have them. Eric Yu has joined us as well. Eric is the Deputy CISO from MCM. MCM, a very global luxury retailer, fantastic brand, growing quickly. And then Jesse Wolcott, who's with Royal Farms. They're a C-store operator out of the Mid-Atlantic area, also growing. And the reason we put this group together, because this conversation is actually about growth and scaling. And thinking about sort of how I was going to kick things off here, I think about NRF of years past when we had, concepts like the retail apocalypse hanging over our head, where you'd pick up, the newspaper or look online, and there'd be another announcement of another major retailer closing a bunch of stores. And I don't know about you guys, but going past COVID into the time we are now, it seems like a memory. Most of our customers, and maybe this is a self-selecting group, most of them are scaling and growing. It's not the other way around. And it's part of this is because we've reached this new world where the in-store physical retail experience is integrating with the digital online experience in ways that are surprising and in fact drive growth, which is really great. So the last thing I'll say before we really get into the meat and potatoes of this discussion is I'm Richard Newman. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Scale Computing. Scale is by most definitions, by most measures, the largest provider of edge computing and secure edge networking, serving what we call the multi-site operator space, which includes retail, hospitality, restaurants, and then a lot of other types of businesses that have lots of individual physical locations. So we are very excited about this show because so much of this and so much of what happens in this space involves the physical store. And what we're going to talk about today in this panel is, what does it mean to scale? How do you handle scale? What are some of sort of experiences this group has had? We are this is designed to get into very open conversation. We're just going to sort of dive in. So with all that said, these are three very different businesses, as you can tell immediately, and they have different application stacks, but they've got sort of common experiences relative to what it means to grow. And I sort of want to dive into that. And we're talking about how growth of the overall business has impacted technology, because this is a technology-centric experience, technology-centric talk we're having. So let's start with Dave. So your business has grown by leaps and bounds, quite remarkably. How has growth sort of impacted how you think about technology, how you implement and manage technology?
Well, the first thing is that I think it's over 10 years that we've ever had a normal period of just doing our normal jobs, maybe even more than that. There is no such thing as BAU anymore. It's just a fantasy that never happens. We have so many changes, so many reinventions, new generations of customers behaving differently, expecting more from us, mergers, acquisitions, changes in our market, external challenges, and it just keeps coming and keeps coming. And there's new ones all the time, and we just have to keep adapting. And being able to leverage platforms and tools and whatever we can to standardize in ways that we can deliver at speed and be agile and be adaptable to all this just endless change coming on is our only way to survive.
Great. And Eric, so again, you're another you guys have been growing and opening new locations at a pretty brisk clip, and again on a global basis.
You're right.
How has growth changed how you think about technology?
Growth for us has meant expanding across highly distributed footprint, DOS, shopping shop, and travel retail location around the globe, EMEA, NCSA, and APAC. As we scale, we began encountering performance and monitoring challenges, along with increasing security compliance requirements. Each region has a different local variable and connectivity conditions, which introduce inconsistency in application deployment and troubleshooting workflow. Growth didn't just add the stores. It added operational complexity and a wider range of risk factors, and especially around secure retail, protecting customer data and PCI-driven compliance environment.
So security, obviously. I gotcha. Jesse.
Our business grew very organically, and as we built out our application stack pre-COVID, we sort of designed to a bare minimum spec. So when technology, especially with COVID, right, when the convenience store was no longer convenient enough, when we had a delivery service to bring the convenience store to you, now we have all these expanded requirements. So having to sort of leapfrog forward to be able to design that application stack and that hardware stack to support all of it, it's been a challenge. Thankfully, we have scale to do that.
Gotcha. So the sort of common theme I hear here is it's sort of about having and owning an application stack that you're able to advance with, and I'll assume that means, finding a way to get past legacy, the ability to find ways to modernize. Obviously, no one gets to change core retail systems every couple of years. That's far too expensive. And, from our experience, at least, we see, a desire at least to be able to look at lifespans of technology that goes into retail locations that's measured, in 5 to 8 to maybe even as long as 10 to 12 years. And if you think about how technology's changed, if I were to pick a technology stack from a decade ago, it's very different than the one I want today. So with that thought, and again, think about how you might be adding locations. What can you do when you've got a vendor's sort of technology stack that's core to your retail operations? Maybe point of sale, maybe loyalty, maybe payment, pick any of the above, and you're confronted with a world where you're going to have to grow and change it. What decisions did you make, or what changes did you make that sort of facilitated that? And Jesse, I'll just go right back to you.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, with redesigning a network stack or any piece of the sort of modular overall picture of what runs the retail environment, right? So we look at it and say, how do we design this network stack to be as versatile as possible? What are they going to throw at us? Well, none of us has a crystal ball. So we try to anticipate and say, this will fit our needs today. Let's give 10% for growth, and hopefully the technology is as adaptable as possible without a giant capital expense. And there's a certain amount of it that's hope for the best and be creative in your architecture.
Yep, gotcha. So Eric, has your organization made decisions with the technology that you have today that you needed to pivot on, and quickly, relative to either vendors or how something was implemented? What did that end up looking like, and how did your business at least react?
So our approach generally have a tiering structure based on main focus on the technical support for the retail side is remote support. And when the remote support is not fully enough, then we approach to find the field technician dispatch. And the final step might be our internal IT teams will be handle all the situation. But to get that level of the support, we have a standardizing global network configuration to reduce variability. But still, we have a critical challenges around the visibility compliance audit, and the connectivity still requires structured processes, and external partner like you need to be involved very deeply to remove all the obstacle from the retail side.
Got it. And Dave, this again is probably in your wheelhouse, but you've gone since your business has grown in part through acquisition and also organically. You've been challenged with having a lot of overlapping business systems, a lack of, we'll call it standardization that you've had to sort of push through over the last few years. What are some of the lessons that you've learned or your business has learned from that?
Well, the biggest one is I've been doing this for a very long time, and every time that you think you've seen it all, and this new acquisition or this new challenge is going to be just another like the 6 other ones we did, nope. There's always new. There's always something bigger. There's always something more tech debt that you've discovered in places that you never thought you'd find it. Something is more divergent than you ever imagined, and you got new challenges. And then there's always the honeymoon where you're getting to know each other in a merger. And I'm talking about that because I'm stuck in the middle of one right now, so it's close to me. But you finish the honeymoon and everybody's presented all their stuff really nicely, and then you start digging in and you find, oh my gosh, this is not what we talked about in those intro meetings, and you have to solve it. So we have to kind of keep, because the business will not say, okay, we're going to let you guys take the next 48 months or 24 months to get that merger done, and we're going to stop all of our requests for innovation and adapting to our market. We need to keep doing that the whole time. And we've had to kind of chase down a two-part strategy. One, you got to have something that is just boring and reliable and works every day. And at the same time, you have to be able to leverage that to be fast and innovative and try and fail and try again and succeed the next time, or maybe fail and try again. But you have to have both, because at the end of the day, you gotta always be able to close that sale with the customer, have what they want, and have them leaving happy. So it's been it's a balancing of 2 different approaches. You have to keep both going. You have to keep innovating at the same time as you're down in the basement, bringing all the disparate systems together and all the processes up to date. You can never let off either one.
Right, and innovation is actually, at least we see it, it's not easy to do because it requires looking ahead. It requires making investments, and often, again, we live in the real world. Margins in retail can be lean, and the businesses expect that we're going to run lean organizations. It doesn't leave a lot of room for R&D, particularly in the straight up store system space. The largest of the organizations get to do that. Mid-sized to smaller retailers have a challenge to it, but again, if you're not thinking about how you're going to innovate, if you're not presenting new ideas or trying to look to push, sort of the expectations that you have with some of your vendors towards innovation, it can be, you can find yourself dealing with far more legacy than you ever want to, and being unable to sort of react to what the business is going to ask you to do. And again, from the infrastructure standpoint, the store system standpoint, whether we're talking about networking or we're talking about security or we're talking about how you deliver and manage applications, there are opportunities too. You just have to get past some of the noise, I think, on it. And Jesse, this is, with that sort of that preamble, what I find fascinating about the business you're in C-Store Fuels, is it's complicated. There's a lot of technology that goes into delivering a customer experience. And it's also one where there's a relatively small number of very large systems vendors. You kind of have to tangle with them. As retailers, we want to be able to innovate at our own pace, not necessarily the same pace the vendor wants us to innovate at. So how have you sort of handled that? I mean, you've had to dance with some of these big guys as a mid-tier, C-store operator. What are some of the secrets?
Yeah, the willingness to create your own automation is almost required when you're dealing with sort of, here's the product as we offer it, and novel integration may or may not ever come. So being able to weave those products together that are complicated and constrained while the customer continues to demand more, you just have to be willing to get your hands dirty, metaphorically.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Eric, one of your specialties is security. And as you sort of grow and expand and look to innovate, which means introducing new things, how do you ensure you stay secure?
So our strategy is mainly focused on the global standardization, especially network configuration, device control, and the compliance framework. Even though we have a global standard, still, under the current situation, we have a very small size of the IT team by each region. It's really critical to manage and monitoring on time. So deploying solutions that offer centralized visibility, real-time alert, and hardware independence has allowed us streamline operation, reduce dispatching, and manage environment more proactively rather than reactively. But that's the always challenge for us, using the small size of the team. And also we have a very strong service provider and partners we have each region, but still that's the one of the main topic we really need to focus on.
Great. And Dave, this is probably a good one for you on that note. So you're implementing new things. You're global. The security landscape has gotten a lot more complicated. From what we see, our customers are no longer just concerned about loss of credit card data because it's lost both value and also, the advent of EMV has made it just less interesting. But the threats have grown. I mean, we now have a world where you've got state-sponsored, cyber terrorism as a real possibility. Do you lose sleep over cybersecurity today, and especially as you change and grow?
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest times I lose sleep is when DEF CON happens in Vegas every year, and all those people come and fly in and spend their time in the Las Vegas airport outside our shops. And we don't sleep very well those nights and watch our firewalls really carefully. In the last few years, all of the near misses and little difficulties and some medium-sized difficulties that we've had in security have never been with our big central data center or our main office or the big DC. It's always that little management office in a field somewhere, the LAX airport manager. I don't want to call out LAX. That's not fair. It's just hypothetical. But some airport management office or a warehouse in a small town somewhere, and it's always those places. And it makes it so important because when you're trying to innovate and trying to keep up and trying to integrate multiple companies at speed while everything's going on, you always run the risk because there's always this approach of move fast and break things. And when you move fast and break things in security, you leave yourself wide open in the most unexpected places. And so having a platform that allows us to get things right once and then reliably roll them out the same way to every location and then enforce that as the way to get all of our innovations out there has saved us many times.
Yep. And the key word there I'll pick on is platform. Everyone needs a platform. And a platform is, if it's something that a third party, application provider is delivering to you with their application, it's not necessarily your platform. You can't necessarily tweak it. So, with that thought, again, Jesse, I'll bring this, back to you again. So what does platform mean to you at the end of the day?
It all depends on who you ask, right? So the idea of if you just say broadly writ, platform is the entire business as a snapshot, right? So everything that we do is our retail platform, and that includes our corporate spaces, our web presence, our app, our loyalty platform. Everything is our platform.
Great. Yeah. And Eric, from a security standpoint, again, I'm sure you think about things from a platform-centric view, a place to be able to add, move, and change, add new security applications, respond potentially to new threats. Do I have that right?
Yes, since MCM has a very unique standpoint of CISO, our top management believe that the infrastructure and security cannot be segregated. So my title is very unique, infrastructure and security officer. So most of the time, my role is a Jekyll and Hyde. While I'm improving the infrastructure at the same time, enhancing security is my job. So in that case, since we have AccuVisit on our brick and mortar side, which is really good so far, we never had unidentified device access or attempt since AccuVisit has a strong control of the rogue AP attempt. So that was really good. On top of that, strengthening compliance, real-time monitoring, and port-level visibility has helped ensure we maintain a secure edge environment across all stores, not only in the US, but also we have the same standard for the EMEA and APAC. So it's pretty good so far, since we have a standardized platform to ensure the security.
Yeah, and this is something you mentioned a couple times, which is about visibility. So what we've seen is that best practices and the retail operators that operate, at the highest level have a lot more visibility into their infrastructure, their systems, visibility both on and through their platform, that ones that don't. And it's one of those sort of hidden investments. Business users don't necessarily see the value in visibility. They just expect things to work. But unless you have visibility, you're not going to know. And unless you have visibility, you're not going to know. You're not going to know how to respond. You're not going to be able to be ahead of issues before it affects the business. We think visibility is something that generally is underinvested in. And sort of with that in mind, from this group here, do you guys have any plans for investment in observability and visibility this year? And if so, how have you been thinking about it? And Jesse, I'll go back to you.
Well, sure. It's the same thing as insurance, right? It's a sort of deeply unsexy topic that if you ask your boss for more money for observability and visibility, he says, well, why did you build a product that needed that? So trying to really make those ROI arguments is tough without poking holes in your own infrastructure. So we're always looking to do more automation, more visibility, and making the problems go away before the customer or our employees even know about them. So those data points are super critical in sort of ensuring that reliability of service.
Yeah. And Dave, what about you? On observability and visibility, particularly as you've got this sprawling mix of different systems and locations and constraints in terms of what you're able to do in the physical spaces.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a hard requirement. I frustrate some of my colleagues in other regions of the company because I'm always trying to steer towards the option that gives us more visibility. It's one of those things where we've all experienced late nights with a disaster that is requiring 14 professionals from 6 different companies to kind of get their eyes on something, and you just can't figure it out. And then you get a platform that's got more visibility and a really manageability in a way that is useful, built in, and it just changes the game. Hours turn to minutes, minutes turn to seconds, and the business never really, it's why isn't it always like that, right? So it just becomes an expected thing, and you can't live without it. It's just the old days of having a slow process and having problems be bigger than they should be just aren't acceptable. It's the only way.
Yeah, but that rings true. So the last thing before we sort of wind down, I want to leave a few minutes in case there are any questions from our attendees here, is so we've got growth, we have modernization, we've got new requirements. And so when we look at the application landscape, we're starting to see the sea change, moving away from what I think we'd all think of as legacy client server-based applications to what at least I call cloud native systems. And cloud native, generally people think, it runs in the cloud natively, but actually it's a technology architecture, and cloud native based applications can run within the 4 walls of a store. And when you look at at least the large POS vendors we deal with, they're all starting to announce and deliver their cloud native component sets, which are usually container based. They often support, the latest in, AI and ML based applications. So it's part of, this growth of scaling. With this infrastructure, you don't want to implement an architecture that's a bunch of years old. So I'm just going to ask my panel here. Have you started to see cloud native technologies, containers, Docker, microservices impact your business, and sort of what thoughts, concerns, or questions you have about that? And Jesse, let's start there.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. This year we have one vendor that gave us a container and another one that gave us just a thick provision VM. So we really truly have to be ready for whatever, right? So I'm not going to call out any particular fuel dispenser vendors, but it's just a Windows VM. And they say that a container is coming, who knows when, right? So we have to be ready to take whatever these vendors give us, and having that flexibility is really what's going to enable us to serve our business. So that's what it is. It's all flexibility.
Got it. I guess your platform has to be ready.
That's right. We have to be ready.
Yeah. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, so one of our challenges is we're a multi-brand operator. So in our restaurant business, we have over 400 different brands. And we don't have the flexibility to be very choosy about what vendor we choose. We really, in that business, there's some very large vendors that a lot of these brands use, and we make our lives much easier by kind of going to that common denominator. And it so happens that one doesn't have, is not containerizable, right? So we have no choice but to build our own in front of it. So we build a middleware in front of it, and we handle all that as a layer over top of that system and get the benefit of both.
Gotcha. Interesting. All right. We've got a couple minutes left. I'd love to take a couple questions if anyone has any for either myself or our panel. Anyone? Great.
We were promised some heckling.
I can start the heckling if you want. Well, thank you. So my question essentially, Dave, you mentioned that, and you also mentioned that too, where you have retail systems, we can't change them often. So with the assumption that retail systems last about 10 to 12 years, what design or security principles do you try to embed right now to ensure that those things are scalable and you can work through?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we've had to deal with, right? Exactly that question. So we try to go for because we know we want our POS system to last that long, right? And we know that the market and the industry and the customer behavior moves way faster than that. So we do our very best to get a POS system that is reliable, really good quality, and provides a good data layer. Because if you're going to innovate in other ways outside of that POS system, because it's going to move too slow because you want it to move slow, because you want 12 years out of it. So you have to be able to have that ability elsewhere. And so, but you need your data to be right? So we try to make sure that that POS system is a really good holder of the data, and then we abstract it with a layer in front to support all the innovation.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up on cloud applications, and I wanted to ask about your recommendation for vendors who want to deliver cloud-hosted applications in terms of how we can provide that assurance from a security perspective.
Great. Anyone on the panel want to take that? So
You want us to recommend vendors? Yeah.
The basics of having your GDPR and 27001 and SOC 2 and having all of those badges kind of sweep through and go, okay, well, we can start on a common language, right, with data governance in a way that we're all speaking the same language. And from my side, right, obviously, the PCI DSS standards today, tomorrow, they're so generous that they give us several versions in advance. So being able to speak the language of that we speak for regulatory compliance is a great first step.
yeah, I'll add, if you're coming to the table, and both if you're a retailer looking to onboard vendors and services, you want to see adherence to compliance standards, SOC 2, PCI, service providers. There's a host of them. Some of them are very specific to industries like FedRAMP, GDPR. If you can't check those boxes, it's risk. So,
Or worse, if you don't even know what they are.
or you don't even know what they are exactly. Absolutely.
And make sure your system is exposed by an API, because it's your solution probably isn't going to solve our entire need, which means we're going to have to attach it to other things. And please don't help us to discover partway through the process that, oh, your API only covers about 60% of the functionality. Make sure it covers the whole thing.
All right. And now we're out of time. Thank you, everybody. Come up and visit us. We're up on the top floor, Scale Computing. Booth number, if anyone remembers it, 6329. And thank you to the panelists. Appreciate your time today.